Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome to another Webinar Wednesday hosted by CSU Bakersfield Small Business Development Center. I'm Kelly Bearden. I'm the director of that center. And as we're listening to the wonderful chimes of the church outside here in downtown Bakersfield, it's time for webinar number 259. Over the last 9.99 years, we've been doing webinars. Today, we have a very topical and timely and great program, I think, for you today. Cindy Merzon, the director of the Coastal SBDC, will be joining us. We're going to talk about some of the storm-related activities in addition to the California Dream Fund program in just a little bit, but let's get going here. So what do we got going today? Today is January the 18th, 2023. So as I think most of you know, California has taken a bath. We overflowed the tub, and now we're looking for ways to get out of this particular trouble. So yes, a lot of different storm-related activities, from flooding to mudslides to landslides. Also, we had in our territory, our 3-county territory, the community of June Lake was evacuated last week because of avalanche fears. And Mammoth, boy, I'll tell you, you talk about digging out. Maybe next week we'll have time to show you the photo of them digging out of the particular snow form. So California has taken a bath. We've overflowed the tub. We either get no rain or we get all kinds of rain. It just is kind of strange how this goes, but we're going to look at some of the disaster programs that are available. We're also going to take a deep dive into training, the training, advising, and business plan program that was the California Dream Fund program. Remember, that program returned 95% of the money for that program to entrepreneurs in the terms of $5,000 or $10,000 grants. And we'll talk about that. Cindy will be on to talk about that. We'll have our program update, and we do have some options. They are somewhat limited, but we'll get into our program update. Our economic corner today focuses on big layoffs, and big layoffs are happening in the tech sector, with Microsoft today announcing 10,000 jobs reduced. So you're seeing basically your major players all throughout tech continuing to get into a big layoff situation. You know, we're going to probably follow up on last week, for those that were here last week, on our employee retention credit and some of the emails targeting. We had Jay Thompson on the last webinar of 2022. He talked about some of the mills and some of the people and some of the targeting going on for businesses. And we're going to continue. My emails have continued. I think I shared a couple last week. We'll share a couple more this week. So here we hope you'll find the business news and the info that you need in 2023. Webinar Wednesday, keep coming back. And as always, your questions at the end of today's webinar, but let's go to a poll, just a simple poll for today. And it's just a little curiosity on my part and wondering in how much you were affected by the California storms. Yeah, it probably hasn't flooded like this in, maybe 1994 or so. So how were you affected? Were you significantly affected? Were you moderately affected? Maybe only a minor impact to your business, or no impact at all? Okay, over here in Kern County, we were probably luckier than a lot of the coastal regions and some of the other areas of the state, but how affected was your business? And your business could be affected even if your roof isn't leaking. Remember the economic injury disaster loans? Yes, we'll be talking about those again. So significant, moderate, minor, or no damage at all. So we have 86% of you in. You guys are awesome today. Let's end this poll and we'll share the results. And 37% of you had no impact at all. Comes next, 26% of you were significantly impacted. So 21% had minor, and moderate impact was 16% of those who responded to today's poll. So yeah, it seems like it's kind of like how it rains in California. It either just rains and rains and rains, or it doesn't rain at all. So 37% of you, no rain at all, no impact. 26% of you significantly affected. So thank you for jumping into that, and let's move along. So right now I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm not going to introduce her, but I'm going to bring in our special guest today, Cindy Merzon, who's the director of the Coastal SBDC in Monterey and San Benito counties. And we're going to kind of go through the storm details. I thought it was best to bring Cindy in here because mainly because she's the one that's dealing with this and has more issues. And there was some really good news today and we'll explain this. There was some good news that Monterey County is starting to be included in here. So let me jump into these real quick bullets, and then Cindy, I'm going to ask for your input on Monterey County. And of course, we're going to be talking about low interest rate disaster loans that are now going to be available to California businesses and restaurants or residents. Very well could be a restaurant. So the original declaration that first came out included, part of our Central California region in Merced, but also Santa Cruz counties and also Sacramento. But recently there's been I think as maybe last night, included the coastal communities of Monterey, Santa Barbara, and San Luis Obispo counties, which is significant for those that had all the damage over there. So, we can go to $2 million, or SBA will go to $2 million for this. I think the economic injury disaster loan was kind of, a really telling point for a lot of people who now know about these disaster loans, and it's the same family. And we can talk about both the damage done to the homeowners and to businesses that were directly impacted by the flooding and direct damage, and then differentiate that from the economic injury disaster loan. So Cindy, what are you finding out in Monterey County and what is going on there?
So our big challenge in Monterey County was obviously flooding and mudslides and high winds, which resulted in trees coming down, which resulted in power outages. And all of that not only impacted residents, but also impacted businesses. And at one point, projected flooding and evacuation orders were suggesting that Monterey Peninsula was going to be an island, and people from the peninsula could not get out, and people from outside the peninsula could not get in. They were expecting Highway 1 to be closed. They were expecting Highway 68 to be closed where the river crosses, and also Highway 101. Which is troublesome if a big part of your business on the peninsula is tourism. So certainly a huge economic impact for businesses in the peninsula, but the larger economic impact has been to agriculture with the huge amounts of agricultural flooding, farm flooding. And the impact there is not so much in that there's crops that are planted, because most of those crops are happening in Southern California right now. But in order to plant crops on schedule, they have to wait for the water to recede, and then they have to test the soil for pathogens to make sure that it's safe to plant the crops. So it's probably going to delay their scheduling of crops. And certainly all of the road closures and the flooding has resulted in farm laborers not being able to go to work. And so there are some personal issues and maybe not even able to access their housing. So it's been fairly serious. So the question becomes, what's out there to help folks? With the initial declaration from FEMA excluding Monterey County, we were named as a quote unquote contiguous county, which means that businesses could apply for low interest loans from SBA using the economic injury disaster loan family that you talked about. Very similar rules, and it's low interest loans, but very similar rules to what was there for the COVID people that were affected, with this particular storm. However, because we were not in the FEMA list, businesses and individuals could not get direct assistance for repair and recovery via FEMA. So we've been hopeful that that would be updated. News release came out last night indicating that Monterey was added to the FEMA list. However, I've been unable to confirm that by looking at the FEMA webpage. It does not show Monterey County. It shows San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara County, but we're not there. So we're still trying to determine what exactly is available for Monterey County businesses and residents.
Well, that's got to be kind of that's got to be happening, I would assume. So we'll get into the FEMA SBA differences because people are familiar with the economic injury loan, the IDLs that we've called them for the last 3 years almost. But this is different because this actually has disaster loans to repair and to get your business back to where it was before the disaster.
Correct.
So 200,000 available to homeowners even. That's the weird chance and the weird program where SBA actually makes loans to non-businesses. So the disaster program will do homeowners and renters as well. So moving along, it's just some of the interest rates that we see a little bit different than what we've seen in the past, but there's a lot of contact and a lot of information out there. And I know Maureen, our executive producer, Maureen, is filling up the chat box with these for you today. But disasterassistance.gov, there's the SBA's customer service number. We'll have information on FEMA. So there's a lot of information going out there. One thing I found interesting was our SBA administrator, Isabel Casillas Guzman, is granting a 12-month no payment, 0% interest. Now with COVID, we saw a 30-month deferral, but you still paid the interest on there. So for these types of disasters moving forward, at least until the end of the government's fiscal year in September 30th, there's going to be no payments and no interest, it looks like, accrued at that point. Some of the other things that we see, there's the SBA email and phone number. And Cindy, you and our friend LQV shared this with me today, this FEMA disaster. Would you talk a little bit about this FEMA and this website where people can go to?
So the website that Kelly's showing on the screen there specifically identifies the areas of the state that are designated by FEMA and have access to direct assistance for repair of facilities, and also some both for individuals and for businesses. So you can go to that website. It gives you access to the list of counties, but then it also allows you to kind of maneuver around and see what all the benefits are from FEMA for individuals and for businesses, and how you access that, what it covers and what it doesn't cover, et cetera. So that's a great site to kind of hang with. And as they designate additional counties, which I sort of expect that they will, as the flooding starts to go down, I think we'll discover there's more damage than we were unaware of, and that may result in additional counties being added. And this designation page will show that if you keep watching that periodically.
So, and here's kind of our recap, the recap on FEMA. This is, the process is essentially the state does the analysis and then they go to the White House and they say, we have this damage, can you look into doing a disaster for our particular area? But the federal government will never do it on its own. It has to receive a formal request from the state. And sometimes it takes a few days and maybe even weeks to get out there to determine that damage and to see if it's really needed. So Cindy, what stands out here on what FEMA does and what SBA does in these particular programs for you?
First of all, to have access to FEMA, you have to be one of the declared counties. So that's why I'm so concerned about Monterey County being either in or out, because that makes a difference as to whether or not they're eligible for either public assistance, which is direct assistance for emergency work and repair or replacement of disaster damaged facilities, or for individual assistance, which provides financial and direct services to eligible individuals and households that are affected by the disaster, who have either uninsured costs or underinsured expenses that are necessary and serious. So FEMA is sort of the first shot to come in and help those individuals and businesses for out of the pocket, upfront stuff. The SBA option is available to those businesses that are in the declared areas, and also those counties that are considered contiguous, and those are named on the SBA website. And it makes available these emergency disaster loans and economic injury loans at much lower interest rates than are what available on the market right now. So that's sort of the difference in the two.
Okay, great. And hit the question box, and we can get to any questions you might have with this after we're done. But Cindy, we'll see you in a few minutes. I'm going to get on with a few more other things and have you back. But I got to leave you with this wonderful farm flooding here in Salinas and show you that particular field that we were talking about. And now my concern, of course, is when you see a field like that in the Salinas Valley, is with prices and inflation already bad, am I going to have enough cabbage to buy lettuce? Boy. Okay, so what are some of the programs in 2023 that we're going to continue to bring? And we're going to speculate probably before today's over about what else we might be seeing in 2023. There's a lot of money out there still and programs that haven't been totally identified. But we do know that the California Micro Grant Program that we have been administering here at the CSU Bakersfield SBDC for the county of Kern and for Kern County micro businesses is going to run until May 2023. Those individuals that you might know out there that are micro businesses were in business in 2019. There is a handful of requirements, including that you did not receive the California Relief Grant through lindustry.com. But if you have any information, call our office, 661-654-2856. Operators are standing by. Also, I've been talking a lot about and I'm just, going to probably continue. I'll warn you right now about the on-the-job training program, because still enough of our small businesses are not taking advantage of their wage reimbursement for up to 3 months for training new employees. Now, if it's a job that doesn't have a really kind of longer, more detailed, more comprehensive training aspect to it, it's probably not going to be worth your while. But for those that have, 3 months of training, if you have some particular job, you can get that wage reimbursement for 3 months. Please take advantage of it. You can call America's Job Center here in Kern or throughout our viewing region. And also the employee retention credit, something we've been discussing for a long time. And yes, I do have more emails to share, and we will discuss it more today as well. So, little bit on the economic corner is, kind of a lot of things that really we talked about last week. But the big thing is jobs. There is the tech jobs that are going away. Tech jobs continue to reduce, but the thing that's fascinating when you get in and start looking at tech jobs that are being laid off now, a lot of it was that same problem where people were paying, people, I say, Microsoft, Meta, Twitter, some of the other tech agencies and tech groups that have been having Amazon laid off over 10,000 people. So what you're seeing a lot of these businesses ramped up and did a lot of hiring when business was growing for them throughout the pandemic. Tech businesses did very well during the pandemic. But then when the pandemic kind of ended, that growth curve slowed down. So that is pretty much what we're going to talk about. We're going to have some detailed economic information coming up soon, so stay tuned. Our capital quarter, just a reminder on the EIDL and another reminder on the California Relief Grant Program and ERC that we're going to talk about right now. So some of the issues and some of the risk, my opinion and what I have been saying pretty much all along this process is that you don't need to talk to your SBDC consultant. They can give you some direction. You need to talk to your tax professional. And we're headed into tax season. It's starting about right now. It's a great opportunity to do that. Sure, everybody probably knows by now that if you filed a 941 form, which was your payroll information for the third quarter, let's say the third quarter of that was ended 9/30/21, that you need to go back to amend that in order to take the credit. But also, there is a provision that you must reduce your wages on your tax return to the extent of your credit. So that would preclude you from going back and filing a business tax return, be it a Schedule C on your 1040. be it a 1065 for an LLC or partnership, or an 1120 form for a corporation. That would all need to be amended for the periods that you took the credit. So if you went back all the way to when the first credit was available back on December 31st, 2020, you could be amending 2 years worth of tax returns. And by having a larger payment due, there is a chance that you would be charged penalty and interest on that. We'll have to wait and see how that shakes out. I haven't heard one way or another, but still, that is kind of the condition and why you need to have your tax professional involved. So last week, of course, I shared some of the emails I've been getting about the employee retention credit. I think somebody ran, who has the most employees in Bakersfield, and California State University Bakersfield was probably on that list. So I've been getting emails, and I got 3 last week. This was one I shared last week about how you can get up to $26,000. As I told you last week, I vetted these emails and I vetted this corporation, and I feel that they were on the up and up. I also believe that many of these charge 20, 25, 30% of what you're going to get. And if you're going to get a pretty healthy amount back, that you're paying way more than you should by just slapping the percentage. I mean, this is a cash cow for these people. But again, I think they are on the up and up. When they say they've helped 19,000 businesses, I did look online and I did believe them. So here's my new ones. I just before last week on Webinar Wednesday, this came in and asked me again for the 3rd time in the matter of 4 days if I wanted to. And I already told you, if I applied for it through CSUB, I mean, that's a criminal offense. Come on. I don't even think the university being a government entity, in fact, I know they are not an eligible entity to begin with. So this is all kind of a mute discussion. So the next emails came in, and I'm missing a massive opportunity. There was a picture apparently of their CEO holding ERC envelopes. I guess that was, not looking at the photo, I guess that was maybe checks that were coming in or returns that had been amended that would then yield that 45 million. And it's true, you won't pay them a dime until you get your ERC credit, and then you'll pay way too much if you do. If you have a smaller credit, maybe not as bad. So then I get another one that says, during the Biden administration, the qualifications changed, and 80% of businesses that did not qualify before now qualify. So enough on that. But, what you really want to do with this is you really want to talk to your tax professional now that it's tax season, and there could be an opportunity for you to go back. We've talked about the ERC being a very lucrative credit for those that get it, but you do have to reduce your wages on your tax return by the credit that you receive, and that means you've got to go back and actually amend those tax returns. Now, from what I have heard, they have not looked into auditing to see eligibility, but I believe we've all kind of heard that the IRS is poised to hire 75,000 new agents, and I believe that they have been trying to get this money out to pandemic-weary businesses that need relief. So I think that there could be quite a few of these audited in the future. So, you need to go into it. But what is up with all these emails? Okay, I got that one, and then and then I get this one this morning at 5:07 a.m. And of course, you know me, I heard that ding, and I jumped up at 5:07, and it was really nice. How you doing? Hope you're doing well. It's somebody from a Gmail account that thinks they know me. I don't have any idea who they are or what their education and learning conference is. But it sounded like a great network opportunity for 3 days, a 3-day excellent educational event. I think that's an oxymoron. I don't think you can have a 3-day excellent educational event discussing all these wonderful things. So let's have a quick call this week. And yet there's no contact information. There's no phone number. What is going on with this? Okay, hopefully you're not experiencing the same thing, and I'll go back to being my old man in the corner over here and share with you some of the tools. I added a new tool to the toolbox this week, and that is our SBDC Net, which is our national clearinghouse for 1,000 SBDCs across the country, where you can get market information, you can get demographic information, and you can get feasibility work depending on your NACE code of your particular business, but all kinds of information. It's only eligible for you to go through your SBDC consultant, but the National Clearinghouse has tons of information. If you're looking to grow your business, you're looking to expand, looking at different markets, or you're looking to start off. Great information all the way around. Okay, enough of me. Let's bring in Cindy Merzon, who, as you probably heard earlier, is the director of the Coastal SBDC. She's worked in Fortune 500 businesses, provided executive leadership for large nonprofit organizations, and facilitates everything from SBDC consulting, small business loans as part of a certified development company. She is directed, and as we have said, serves Monterey and San Benito. There we go. Let me try that one more time. San Benito County businesses. And I know you, San Benito County businesses. I've been there. I've been out there working with you. So my apologies for hacking your county name. But prior to the SBDC's acquisition by CalCoastal in 2018, she served on the loan committee and board of directors. She's a graduate of our CSU system, albeit Fresno, with a bachelor's degree in business administration, personal industrial relations. My friend, Cindy Merzon. Cindy, take it away.
Thanks, Kelly. And nice to see you all again. It's great to be back on Webinar Wednesday. I am going to share my slide, which means Kelly's are going to go away. And my plan today is to share with you specifically, let me make sure I'm sharing with you the right thing, is to share with you specifically what's going on with the California Dream Fund program in the Central California network. You've heard from me before where I kind of talked about what it was, how you access it, what kind of training that it included. It's basically a business startup boot camp that if people completed all of the training and launched their business legally with all of their permits and licenses and got their business bank account set up, they were able then to receive a code from the Central California Network to apply for a grant from the state of California, hence the California Dream Fund moniker. And those grants could be anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. And we've been working on this since early 2022. And at the end of December of 2022, we had completed 6 cohorts or 6 groups of classes, 6 groups of 10 groups of students who completed 6 classes each. So that's why we call them cohorts. So we completed 10 of those. So I want to give you a little update on where we are with that, what may be coming next, and what options are out there. So let's see. You're not supposed to be looking at that. Okay. So Central California SBDC's CDF program is now currently oversubscribed. What that means is that the state stopped SBDCs from issuing CDF grant application codes and certifications as of December 22nd, 2022. And why did they do that? Because the state allocated funds basically have been allocated. If all of the certifications and applications were funded, there would be more money going out the door than the state had allocated for this program. So they said, stop issuing application codes and certifications. So we did that. Our grant allocated to Central California Network was $760,000. And as of December the 30th, we had funded $320,000 of that with 44 applications. You'll see our little approval rate in light gray. I think it's important for you to understand that we found that of the people that applied for the grant after completing our training program, 95+% of them were approved by the organization that was reviewing their application, which was Lindustry. That was specifically for the Central California network. We learned that other training providers around the state sometimes had 75% approval rate. So I think we did pretty well in terms of helping people get ready to launch their business, as well as helping them be successful in getting approved for the grant. So back to our oversubscription situation. If we funded $320,000, we also have, that means that there's $440,000 remaining in the bank account, if you will, to fund grants. We have 72 applications for that $440,000 pending with Lindustry right now. They've turned in all of their information. Lindustry is reviewing them and trying to determine who they will approve. Overall, if you take the average grant amount, so the 44 divided by the 320,000 divided by 44, that on average, the grant amount is $7,275. Of course, the grants are either 5,000 or 10,000, but what I wanted to kind of give you a sense of how we calculated how many possible grants are available with the funds that we have left. So if you take the 72 applications that are pending with Lindustry and you multiply that $7,275, that means that we would need $525,000 in our bank account to fund all of those grants. Well, guess what? We only have $440,000. So as of January the 12th, there's not enough funding remaining, or there is only enough funding remaining for approximately 60 more grants. So that means 12 of the grants that are sitting in the queue waiting for approval there's not going to be money to pay for those. So the question is, what are we going to do now? Attendees of the class knew that it was subject to funding being available, and the earlier you apply, the better chance you have of getting in the door before all the grants went away. But that still doesn't make them happy that there's not enough money to fund them after they went through all of the training. So the question becomes, what can we do? How can we help them? So the first is our network, our region network, is requesting additional funds for applications submitted by 12/31 that are approved but are unfunded. So that might help those folks that are in the queue, but there's not enough money, cover them. We've not gotten approval for that yet, but we've requested that. We are also requesting that the state make additional CDF funds available to issue grants to all approved applications submitted by January 22nd, which is the cutoff date for everybody who has been issued an application code already. So we're kind of coming at it from a couple of different directions to see if we can get the state to allocate money to cover everybody who completed the training. We know that the California Office of Business Advocate, which is part of GoBiz, has requested money in the 23-24 state budget for something that we're calling CDF 2.0. And what we've asked is that first, if that happens, if CDF 2.0 is funded by the California legislature, we ask that those who completed CDF 1.0, they graduated, they completed all of the requirements, that they be given priority to apply for the grants if CDF 2.0 funding is approved. And so, that's what we're trying to do within the realm of the state structure. The other thing we know is there are some municipalities out there that are considering funding their own Dream Fund programs or something similar to the Dream Fund. In fact, Kelly, I think you may want to weigh in on this. I think there may be somebody in the Kern County area that's thinking about doing that. So what we want to do is we want to support the efforts of those municipalities that are doing that kind of work so that they can make the funding available to help businesses start in their areas as well. Kelly, you want to weigh in on this? Yellow. Okay, so I see he's there, but he's not talking. And then finally, I want to talk about what we're thinking about going forward. This training was so successful in helping. Oh, there you are. one of us is locking up.
Okay. Well, I love the internet. So the city of Bakersfield is rumored, and I'm only going to say rumored, to have a program that'll be coming online later this year that is going to be kind of have components of it that are similar to the CDF. And there is even a possibility it's going to be locally in the census tracts. So if you're in one of those census tracts and you were not funded by say a regional CDF program, you're one of the 12 that isn't funded and you're in the census tracts, there's a possibility that they would be able to fund you since you've already completed all of the coursework and things like that. Now, that said, I think there are other communities also that are talking about doing this. There's a lot of state money that's available through other programs, such we talk a lot about the SSBCI, the State Small Business Credit Initiative. There's a potential.
So I'm not sure who you can hear, but I think Kelly is locked up. So while he's still frozen up, I'll go to my last bullet. And that is because of what we learned in doing the CDF program, we think it was a wildly successful training opportunity. And so we are working on transitioning the CDF curriculum into a startup boot camp of classes that we can make available to SBDC clients in the Central California region. And our plan is to make it on demand so that people can take those classes when it's convenient for them and help them get the knowledge that they need to start and run a successful business going forward. So that's our plan going forward. I see our executive producer, Maureen, did Kelly drop off?
Yes, but he's back. I think he's trying to get back to where he can speak again. So,
Yay. Okay.
yeah.
So I wanted to open it up to questions if that works, or Kelly, we can hold off on questions till the end of the overall webinar.
Well, why don't we just keep going and see if we get some questions that come in? So,
okay.
So, one thing that I think that we were going to discuss a little bit was, the chance of new programs. And we touched on that briefly there.
Mm-hmm.
But it just seems like with everything going on with entrepreneurship and everything like that, there is a big demand for a program like this. And it was really nice because we had 57 of our individuals that went through the regional program. And the feedback that I got from the training and everything was that it isn't always the $5,000 or $10,000 at the end. It's what you learn and the skills that you pick up before that.
Mm-hmm.
So if there isn't funding, or if there is funding, are there other options moving forward as well?
So I think as you were coming back on, I was sharing that what we learned was in doing this training that we were able to pull together a lot of really wonderful resources for people that were thinking about starting their business. And people wanted to be able to download that information after the class was over, et cetera. We got really good feedback. So we want to take these classes, transition them out of the CDF context, basically, and just focus on resources and tools available to businesses who want to start their businesses legally and grow or expand their business, because those tools are helpful for that as well, and make them into classes that are available on demand in some form of startup boot camp or business expansion boot camp or whatever. So that's our plan, is to begin working on that and make them available on demand. So somebody comes into the SBDC, maybe they don't know anything about starting a business. We say, take this class first. And after you've completed this class, then we'll assign you a consultant to work with you one-on-one to walk you through the process of implementing what you've learned.
Okay, great. Well, let's jump into a couple of the questions. Let's go through the questions now, and feel free to light up that question box, that Q&A. It's a little bare right now. But let's start with one. We got stuck at the end of the year, so apparently in the last cohort, completed everything in the Dream Fund, but our participating organization ran out of codes. I think we mentioned that. So are you saying that there are no codes to get to an application through Lindustry? Is Lindustry going to have a 2.0 program? If so, the waiting list and classes, you won't have to take the classes all over. I'll guarantee you that. But,
right.
go ahead, Cindy.
So I would, first of all, understand that the state said there are no more codes that can be issued by any of the training organizations. So not just the Central California network, but anybody else that was doing CDF funds as well, because the state's program was oversubscribed. So they stopped the issuance of codes. Frankly was a surprise to all of us, because what happened was is folks that had attended earlier cohorts of the training but hadn't applied realized, oh, the clock's ticking, I'm going to lose my chance. So they dramatically, the number of applications dramatically increased at the end of the year. I mean, dramatically. So that honestly, the money just got used up quicker than we were thinking it was going to get used up. So that is the only program that is approved by the state of California right now. So when we talk about 2.0, that is our hope that the state legislature will approve such a program and allocate funds. If they don't, there are no more codes, there are no more waiting lists, there are no more grants available if there's no additional funding provided. But I can guarantee you, we're not going to make you take the class again if you've already completed all of the training with us and you've submitted all of the documents that you were required to submit. We'll support you if there's an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, and what's important also is it is funded out of the Office of the Small Business Advocate, which is part of the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development. And they're really in tune with what's going on in the program. They know what's going on at a very local level. So if there is a way to get more state funds, they will be able to likely do that. And then Lindustry, remember Lindustry with the California Relief Grant Program, they are a finance institution, a community development finance institution that the state has used for a few of these programs. So whereas Lindustry isn't really affiliated with the state other than on a contractual basis to deliver the funding for these programs and see that eligibility was met and everything is pretty much all the boxes are checked in the right sequence as we do at the state of California. So Lindustry is going to be that funder. So, but they're still the gatekeeper for the payment at the end.
That's true.
Okay, here's a question. For those new attendees to the Dream Fund, can you explain the number of training classes and topics?
Well, there aren't any new attendees to the Dream Fund because the Dream Fund ended on 12/31. So we are talking about creating a new training program that will come out of that, and it's under design right now. So I can't tell you how many classes it's going to be. The Dream Fund was 6 classes. This new training program will be less than that because we're going to be pulling out all of the time that we spent around California Dream Fund requirements and just be talking about business startup. So, and we may be able to compress it into a couple of classes instead of 6. So we're looking at all of those options, and we'll make sure that everybody's aware of what they are as soon as we finish up the design work.
The next question is, when will you know if there are more state funds available? That is if there are more state funds available, which is not yet to be determined.
Right. We won't know until the state budget is announced.
So hopefully that. A little bit different question is on the job training credits. Can the business be a sole prop or is it required to be an LLC? What are the general requirements? So you can be any entity. You can be a sole proprietor. You can be a partnership, you can be an LLC, S Corp, regular corporation. I would imagine you could be a nonprofit as well, but I really haven't answered to ask that question. And so what are the general requirements? The general requirements are that what you do is you have a program and you enter into a contract with your local America's Job Center, and it's for training. It's an individual you can bring in if you want. It's not necessarily one that you have to go out and hire after you do the paperwork. If you've identified somebody that you need to train, and let's say they're doing helicopter repair, just because why not? So they're doing helicopter repair. It might take them 3 months to learn how to do that, or longer. But this program would allow you to be reimbursed from that entity for 3 months. Now, they do have a preference. They do like jobs that are not minimum wage. So a helicopter repair guy, yeah, they get excited about stuff like that. Or even a helicopter repair gal, they get excited about that stuff. But if you have something that is going to be minimum wage, it is going to probably have a less priority. So it is going to be something to where you have a significant training component that you need to get that person trained, and they're willing to make that investment in you and your business. Okay, let's head over to the chat and see what's going on over here. So Ryan asked, would be curious to know about the audit risk with an ERC. I hear because you amend returns, it has flagged. Any accuracy about, well, I'll just add what I added already. And you asked this question before my comments on that earlier. I don't think it adds any more of a red flag because of the amended returns. I think maybe that does with a standard amended return, but everybody has to amend their returns in this program because unless they didn't file back in September of 2021. So if the return was timely, it would need to be amended. And I think that there's, within the IRS, they would understand that there would be a need to also go back and amend a tax return as well. So, but really there's not a lot that's been going on. I think one of my emails said that they haven't heard of anybody hardly be audited by the IRS, but that's going to be a lag. That's going to happen not today or tomorrow. It's going to happen 6 months, a year, 18 months down the road. So that would be the thing that I would look into that. Maureen has a lot of things in here that she has put in here, the SBA disaster information, the FEMA link, some information on from FEMA that the website that Cindy talked about the severe winter storms. Little bit as far as fact sheets in English and Spanish for SBA disaster loans. And that's what's in there. So Cindy, got anything to add?
I don't. I think I do have something to add actually on the job training credits. If you have any questions about those, not only do they have on the job training reimbursements available for new hires, but they also have upskilling opportunities that you can have if you have an existing employee and you want to train them to upgrade their skills, which would result in them increasing their wage and maybe even opening up an entry-level position. That's an opportunity, but the place you go and talk about that is to your workforce development board, and there's one that serves every county. America's Job Center, Workforce Development Board, they work together in serving employers and job seekers. So take advantage of that. That's a really great opportunity. We did that. We did actually do that this summer. We hired a Meta intern to come in and do marketing and social media, and it was awesome. Really sharp. The young man got the training that he needed, and he now has been employed in another position full time with someone as a result of that training. So it's a good win-win-win program.
Outstanding. I agree wholeheartedly. And my reason for mentioning it so often is I am on that workforce development board, and I see the list of the employers that come across there. And then I start doing the math on how few of them are small businesses. Mm-hmm. Something big businesses has realized and takes advantage of, and we need to take advantage of it as well. Cindy, what's going on at your center? What's going on in Salinas, Monterey County and San Benito County?
Right now, we're just focusing on helping people make it through this flood, wind, mudslide disaster, and that really has been where our energies have been the last few weeks. Certainly, we're planning programming for 2023, so training opportunities and all of that good stuff. We're working with, if any folks out there attended our source diverse, source local training last year that we put on regionally. We're doing some more sessions this year. There's 5 of them coming up, and those are designed to help businesses understand what do you need to do to successfully, one, contract with a larger business so that you have some additional sales revenue to your bottom line, and or to do some government contracting. So there's a series of sessions that help you understand how do you market yourself to those companies and to the government, what kind of insurance do you need? What kind of bonding do you need? All of those kinds of things. So watch for information coming out about opportunities to learn about that and maybe help grow your bottom line.
Yeah, great information. And also, I think that is one area that is vastly underutilized. And that is, we talk about government contracting, about doing business with the US government, the state of California, your local school district, but we don't talk enough about the bigger businesses that have the same requirements as far as working with small businesses, your utility companies, et cetera, that are out there that are looking and continue to look for small businesses to contract with in order to meet their goals.
Right.
You know, I remember Chevron here in Bakersfield. I remember talking with them many years ago, and I said, wow, you guys have a goal of 25% to engage small businesses and contract with small businesses. And they told me yes, and we exceed it every year. And I see government entities that have the same requirement that they struggle to get to. So it is just a commitment in finding that, but it's a lot of it is small businesses being aware and knowing where to go. So I look forward to the source. I know we're going to be working with in August with source local, source diverse.
Source diverse, source local.
I got it back.
That's okay.
So we're looking forward to doing that and have a lot more information there.
So I see you had a question come up. I don't know if it's chat. Ryan says he's interested in this and where would this information be posted? It's on the region website calendar. You know what? I'll look it up and I'll drop something in chat to show you the link.
Perfect. Okay. Oh, here's a good question. Is Kern County small businesses eligible for aid through FEMA? If so, how do they apply? Kern County is only a contiguous county at this time, which means that you can apply for the economic injury disaster loan if you've been impacted. For example, let's say that, let's say that you mine, which we have a lot of mining companies here in Kern County, and let's say you mine sand. And your biggest customer over on the coast had all their sand wash away. They go out of business. You have been using, or maybe it takes them 6 months to buy from you again, and 60% of your sales come from them. That is a perfect example of how the economic injury disaster loan works for disasters. You have a customer, or you have customers in areas that have been impacted by the FEMA development and the declaration, but you just don't have the same, you don't have the physical damage and disaster. So the economic injury is something that you can do in Kern County. And for 11 of the 14 counties, well, 11 of the 14 counties in the Central California region. The only 3 that cannot go through the EIDL at this time, from what I saw on the list, is Tulare, Inyo, and Mono. So they're not right next to a county that has had one of these federal designations as far as FEMA goes. The 6 counties we talked about being Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo, Monterey, Merced, Sacramento, or the last one would be probably whatever county. It's too far away from me, so I don't care. Got almost all of them, 5 out of 6. You know, Meatloaf should have sung a song about 5 out of 6 ain't bad.
So I added a link in chat to everyone for the next Source Diverse, Source Local training, which is coming up in February. It starts on February the 7th. There's a link. All of this is virtual. So every part of the Central California region is going to host this at different times. As Kelly mentioned, they're going to, CSUB is going to host it in August, but there's somebody else hosting it in February and in March and in June. So you can find that information on our website, but the next one is coming up starting February 7th.
Ryan says, thank you for these meetings, and says they're awesome. And Ryan, let me tell you, I owe you a visit, and I am going to go up by that lake that's filling up in the mountains above Kern County, above Bakersfield. And I'm going to come and see you in the next few weeks. So be looking for an invite from me. And I'm going to try to spend a little time in your neck of the woods. So hopefully we can get together and meet then. Who knows? Maybe we'll do a webinar Wednesday there. Yeah, apparently your internet's better than mine. Okay. Any last comments, Cindy?
No, just thanks for including me. It's always fun to chat with folks around the region and be part of your team.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us. So much to talk about with the new developments and breaking news and the weather and the opportunities to be made whole from the disasters that have been going on. And so much really for our region. You did a big lift in really being the regional guru behind the California Dream Fund. And thank you for all the effort and time you put in. I talked about 57 of our businesses here in Kern County went through the program. I heard almost every one of them have glowing comments about the program. But 57 out of 58 ain't bad.
Yeah,
something like that.
Totally my pleasure to be part of the team. So happy to
Okay, we are back next week. We're going to be celebrating 10 years of Webinar Wednesday. I'll bust out our 8th birthday cake because I'll continue to use that for marketing purposes, because it's a state university. They don't understand marketing cake, birthday cakes for marketing. It's like, who ate this cake? It's like, anyway. So we'll be back, and we're going to have a panel next week. A lot of different topics to talk about, a lot of things going on. And so we will bring up those topics next week. Got an economist coming up the week after that. Some great SBIR stuff on grants. We got a lot of stuff going on in federal grants that are more regular than these idle grants, and also some of the FEMA grants. So a lot of stuff coming on out there. So everybody have a great week. Thank you so much, Cindy. We will see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.